Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by sophomore goalie on the Loyola women's lacrosse team, Kennedy Buntrock. Last season, Kennedy appeared in 6 games for the Hounds. Before college, she tallied 244 career saves from sophomore year to through senior year. She is a two-time first-team All-State and two-time first-team All-Region, was named to the 2023 Regional Player of the Year and 2023 First Team All-State at large, and was a member of the two-time regional champions and member of the VHSL State Championship team her senior year. Kennedy recently participated for Team England in the U20 World Championships and also helped Loyola win a Patriot League Championship last season as well. So I'm super excited to talk to her about all that stuff. So welcome to the podcast, Kennedy, and how is everything going?
It's great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm also very excited to have you on. Obviously, we're nearing the end of the off season, so how has the off season been going for yourself so far? Anything interesting you've been doing, whether it's lacrosse related or not?
Off season's been great. I think it's not been really too crazy going into my sophomore year. It's really just been balancing classes, lifts, practices, conditioning. I think the craziest thing I've probably done is whenever we have free weekends, I've been trying to like explore Baltimore more since last year I was living on campus and I'm not this year. So it's been kind of fun to explore like new restaurants and new areas of Baltimore that I haven't been to yet. So,
That's awesome. I've only been to Baltimore one time, and I really liked the Hard Rock Cafe in the harbor area. And
oh
they have
yeah.
the best aquarium I've ever been to is in Baltimore. So that's all I can say about the city, just because it's been a long time since I've been there.
Yeah, I haven't been to the aquarium yet, but I definitely need to check that off my list. And if you ever come back, I definitely have some good food recs for you.
Oh, for sure. I would definitely need those because I'd love to check that out. I saw a dolphin show at that aquarium, which was pretty cool.
Way.
It's the first time, it's the only time I've ever seen like a dolphin in person, which was really cool.
That's crazy. I didn't know they had those there.
I don't know if they still do, but it was a lot of fun when I got to see it because I was like 11 years old. So definitely a memory won't forget, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, how did fall ball go for you and the team this year?
Fall ball was great. I feel like fall ball is always super fun. It's less pressure, obviously, than like a game because really it's just the opportunity to play against someone else other than ourselves. For all of the off season, it's our only chance to do that. So we kind of took it into this fall ball season just ready to go, ready to have a lot of fun, ready to kind of test out where we were to see what we're doing well with and what we need to work on. And kind of just to shape our identity with like kind of who we're going to be this season. So I thought we did a great job. I thought we ended our last tournament really well, and really improved as a team, I think.
Yeah, what are some things that you worked on this summer and during the fall to sort of get ready for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I think a lot of my summer was traveling for lacrosse for international things. So I think I definitely was focused on making sure I was prepped for the World Championship as well as like making sure I could be in the best position possible to just use that opportunity to just, you know, increase my like experience so I can take that into this spring as well as like probably just mental mindset, strength in the weight room, which I think are just both something that I am really looking to improve on this year as well, just to only further help me this spring.
Yeah, no, that's definitely awesome, man. Do you think you've seen it sort of translate in the field? I know fall ball is sort of a small sample size, but I'm just curious if what your evaluation was on the things that you did this summer and how you saw it translate on the field.
Yeah, definitely. I think like I think both times that I've represented England in a tournament, it almost just like gives you a different perspective on everything. And I think taking that into this fall, it's just there's so much to appreciate in the sport, and there's so much that you can like. I think it's like we can go through the motions a lot sometimes or get caught in that because we practice every day. We have, class, we have practice, like it's endless routine every day. But I think realizing that we really get to do this. It's hard, but we get to lift, we get to practice. I think it just kind of reminds us that we're so lucky to have this opportunity to play and to, have coaches and a strength and conditioning coach that pushes us to get better so we can perform come spring. So I think that is really just like almost a mindset or perspective that I've been really lucky to be reminded of this summer.
So I want to transition now and talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work all the way down to where you are now. So from the research I did on yourself, it says that you're from Crozet, Virginia. So what was it like growing up there, and how did you start playing lacrosse, specifically goalie? Because I feel like that's sort of a unique position to get into.
Yeah, so I live in Crozet. It's a pretty small town, honestly. But I think I'm super lucky that I got to grow up there. They Small town, it's the kind of place where like you'll go to the grocery store and you'll definitely see at least five people but there's tons of mountains and it's just a really pretty place. So I love it for that. But lacrosse is Crozet, Virginia is definitely not like a Maryland or a Long Island. So kids aren't necessarily born with sticks in their hands, I'd say, but lacrosse is around at the schools and everything. So I kind of just played a whole bunch of sports growing up, and I didn't start playing lacrosse until like fourth grade or fifth grade-ish. And honestly, all of my friends were pl like doing gymnastics, I think, which is like they couldn't even teach me how to do a cartwheel, so I knew that was hopeless. For some reason, I just could not figure that one out. But a bunch of my friends had signed up for lacrosse, and it was some like YMCA rec league that, my best friend's like dad was coaching, and it was just like another opportunity to do something active with my friends as a kid. So I tried it out, and I ended up just never putting the stick down after that, which was awesome.
I'm just curious how, like, what did you start off as a goalie, or did you sort of start off as a field player and then worked your way into being a goalie?
I actually started out as a defender, and I mean obviously when you're like 8 or 9 it's like not that serious, but started out as a field player, and then I was in sixth grade, so I was like 12 when I first started playing goalie, and it was a situation where we like needed someone to hop in, and my friend's dad, who was coaching at the time, put us all on a line and just like made us do random reaction stuff, and um, apparently I reacted pretty quickly as a 11, 12-year-old kid. So he wanted to put me in goal, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Like I was like, I don't want, like I'm gonna get hit, like it's gonna hurt. Like I don't, why would I want to do that? So he emailed my mom and was like, hey, like, do we have permission to put Kennedy in goal? And she was like, is she any good? And they were kind of, I think they responded back and were like, well, she's not bad. She just doesn't want to. And my mom was like, oh, put her in. She's fine. So I got put in the goal, and I ended up loving it. Honestly, I have not played a field position since. And I think I joined a club team as a goalkeeper in sixth grade as well. So I kind of just went from there. But the better you get, the more fun it gets. The older you get, the less they hit you too. So it kind of just kept getting more fun. But
Exactly, exactly. Well, shout out to your mom for letting you be a goalie because and
yeah, no kidding.
look where you are now. So,
Yeah.
and I apologize for mispronouncing your town name as well. I should have known the T probably was silent. So
Oh no, you're fine.
that's my apologies for that. But
No, it's tricky. I promise.
now, growing up, did you have like a favorite team or player that you like to watch for lacrosse wise?
Yeah, so growing up, since we were like 15 minutes from UVA, I grew up watching the UVA women's lacrosse teams a lot and going to Klockner Stadium and watching those games. And when I was in that like just starting lacrosse, so probably like fifth grade to like just like all through middle school, I was in like utter admiration. Like I just admired their goalkeeper at the time. I thought she was the coolest human on earth. Thought she probably walked on water. but her name is Rachel Vanderkalk. She was number 11 for them, and she was just like a phenomenal goalkeeper, and she was the college like player that I grew up watching. So I wanted to be her. She's 5'11-ish, so I wanted to be 5'11. I'm only 5'7. And so that was obviously I came up short on that one, but she was a great athlete. She I think went into aerospace engineering, so she was super smart and driven, and like she would come to some of our club practices to help coach, and she was the one that would like stay until every single kid got picked up to make sure everyone had a ride. So she was always just like a really good leader as well. So I just really idolized her growing up.
That's awesome that because sometimes people always say you don't want to meet your heroes, but it's good to know that she's a really good person off the field. So you know that statement's false a little bit.
Yeah, that's the one that I definitely am glad I got to meet. I made her she saw my helmet and I cried at a UVA camp when I was a kid. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's cool that she's doing like space stuff now. That's pretty cool.
yeah, she's so smart, I think. So she's just like I think also her doing that in college and lacrosse, like that's just insane to balance all of that.
Oh yeah, I can barely balance just academics, and I'm not even a student athlete, so I can't imagine what it's like balancing both of those stuff as well.
Exactly, yeah. Must be insane.
Now, before college, you played for your high school at Western Albemarle. Hopefully, I apologize if I mispronounced that as well, but
No, you're good.
talk about your high school lacrosse experience, what that was like for you, and what's like your favorite high school lacrosse memory and looking back on it now.
Yeah, so I loved going to Western. It's funny, it's okay, all of my English teammates butchered the last one too. It's Albemarle, but I think it's tricky. It comes off the tongue weird, but um
Especially with the accent, I would imagine it's even tougher.
yeah, it's hard. Loyola's a little hard too. But yeah, so obviously COVID was my freshman year, so we didn't get that season, but we were lucky enough to reach the state championship all 3 years I was there, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. Um, we lost, obviously, my sophomore and junior year, and came runner up, but it was just a really fun scenario where we are like kind of ultimate rival of all time was this school named Dominion. And we played them 3 years in a row for state championship, like every single year. And we lost my sophomore year, we lost my junior year, and we beat them my senior year. So that was like the most like fun memory to be able to beat them my senior year. And it was kind of like that season, like we would start season and we're like, okay, like we're ready to go. We're not sad anymore. We lost, like we're ready to beat them. Um, and I think honestly, like, I don't know, it was a great lesson for us, I think, to be able to lose choice and then win to that same team.
Exactly. And you got to end off your career on a high note too. I feel like it would be tough to lose a game like that and not know what, I guess not knowing that you can't go back, I guess. I feel like that's got to be tough just mentally a little bit. It's like, like
Yeah.
what would have happened if there was like if something like this went the right way or things like that. So at least
Hmm.
mentally, I feel like it's a little bit more better, I guess, to know that you won that final game and not
Yeah.
having that end in a loss because that's got to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, they ended in a loss, but they did beat us the 2 years before. So I feel like it's a little bit of a
I feel like
balance,
it's even. I feel like it's
right?
even.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think I mean, the tears were definitely shed my sophomore and junior year. So I think we wanted that so badly. It definitely helped us get there my senior year.
Now, talk about your recruiting process to Loyola. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at? I'm curious, like how many schools you looked at and like why Loyola made the most sense for you.
Yeah, I mean, come September 1st, you kind of don't know who's gonna reach out. You might have an idea, but it never really works out exactly how you're planning, I guess. But I kind of was just ready to, look into and evaluate, like kind of just figure out what was the best fit for me out of whoever reached out to me. And come September 1st, I was lucky enough to have been I gotten a text from Jen and Dana, and I think looking at them compared to some of the other programs I was looking at, culture was probably the biggest thing for me. I knew going into it that, if I had to pick like maybe a really amazing program but didn't have a good culture, like I would rather pick somewhere else. I think I really value culture and, having a really safe environment for you to be able to grow, not only as a player, but also as a human. Obviously, our coaches are phenomenal, um, like genuinely within their own careers and also their coaching careers. But there's a really great family culture here where we kind of all have each other's backs. There's never really there's not drama. Like, we're here for each other. We show up every day. We do the hard things together. And I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else other than our team. So,
Now, I do want to ask, what was like the biggest adjustment you to make to college lacrosse as a freshman, especially as a goalie? Because obviously you're coming in and you have Lauren Spence, who's one of the best goalies in the Patriot League. What was it like sort of being with her and then sort of learning from her and just sort of adjusting to being a goalie on the team? Because I would imagine in high school you're one of the best players in the team, and it must be sort of, I guess not weird, but sort of just like something to adjust to, knowing that everyone that you're teammates with now was also the best player in their high school team's perspective.
yeah, I think I mean, my mom even does work, like, not for me, but she does do sports psych. So I had kind of an idea for some of the things I might expect going into college. I know freshman year is not the easiest out of all of your years, but um, I mean, I think you just have to kind of get into it and see how you are. But um, I think time management is definitely something important for freshman year. Um, you only have so much time between classes and practice, and the only way to do it right is to balance it all. But I think within lacrosse, it's definitely just jumping up in levels. I didn't, I went back to a state championship just to watch last summer, and I was like, whoa, like just the difference in the speed of the game is such a big jump that you really can't do much but just kind of just put yourself into it to adjust. The shots are a lot faster, and that's just the truth of it. So you just have to get reps to get used to it. And you're right, as what you said about, everyone is good. I was the only goalie on my high school team until my senior year, and I um, was also the starter my senior year. Whereas I got here my freshman year, and everyone is amazing. I'm one of four goalies last year, and it's definitely like you know that that's what's going to happen, but it still is hard for sure. And everyone deserves to be here, but everyone's outstanding. Like every single player on my team is incredible, like in the weight room, on the line, on the field. And Spence is like insane. She's honestly, I think last year and this year, for as long as she's here, I'm making sure to just soak up anything I can get from her. She's a phenomenal athlete and goalkeeper, and I wouldn't want to be, looking up to anybody else. She's a great example for who I want to become as an athlete as well. So, yeah, I think just trying to learn as much as I can, as well as just like working on my own skill, working on what I can work on, so on and so forth.
Now, what's it like playing in the Patriot League Conference and just the competition you face each game? Because obviously, looking at your schedule, you guys always play tough non-conference games. And do you feel like that sort of sets you up for the Patriot League? Because it seems like a gritty conference based on me just watching the games. But I'm curious what it's like sort of watching it from the sideline, but also like being a goalie in some of those games as well.
Yeah, I think this conference is a great conference to be in. I think every school that we have in this conference, they all have great programs. And I also think it's a lot of fun I mean, obviously we have like our out of conference games that are challenging and tough, but there's something a little bit different about like the competitiveness you have in conference because it's going to lead to your conference championship and your record, and it matters. And obviously every game matters, but there's like a different like layer of competitiveness that you kind of bring into every game. And yeah, I just think it's so much fun. Our rivalries, I mean, obviously Army and Navy are really amazing programs. And we had a really close game last year for our conference championship. So those games are so much fun, but they're also there's so much anxiety, right? Especially the sideline, because we're just like trying to make sure that we are supporting our teammates on the field as much as we can. But no, it's so much fun. Every program is fantastic. And a lot of times we'll end up meeting, not meeting, but like you'll have old club teammates or high school teammates that play for different schools and you get to kind of see them after the games, which is really fun as well.
In your opinion, who's the best attacker in the Patriot League? Obviously, there's two great ones on your team in Chase Boyle, and Georgia, but I'm just curious, like, is there anyone outside of Loyola that's like, man, she's really like, in your opinion, the best attacker in the Patriot League? Because I'm just always curious from that, from a goalie perspective.
Yeah, I think well, I think obviously Chase and Georgia are insane and very lucky that, we don't have to face those shots in a game.
And it's good that
Obviously.
you get to face them in practice because it helps out a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And they both are like so talented in their own ways too. They both play differently. So it's yeah, they're phenomenal. But I mean, thinking outside of our team, going off of just more of an offensive player, I mean, Britta Duffy is a fantastic. She's insane. I don't know how she plays two sports. She never has an off season, but she's an incredible athlete. And that'll be really fun to play her this spring. But yeah.
Not just two sports, but two sports at Army. So like all
Yeah,
that,
and
the
Army.
academics, and just I assume there's other stuff that goes into that. I just feel like we had her on the podcast last Christmas, and I'm surprised she had enough time to do that interview, but I really appreciate it. She's awesome though, really nice person. I don't know if you had the chance to meet her, but really nice
Yeah,
person.
that's even better. Yeah, I don't. We were watching, I think, one of the soccer games too with Army, but we're like, when you play them, like, not only are they also like obviously phenomenal athletes, but they also have the extra layers of, whatever they have to do for the Army. So it's like, obviously, we really want to win, but there's a level of respect. We have to be like, we don't have to do those things. So it's like, oof,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
it's
the
a
thing
lot of,
that
like,
Well, the thing that always gets me is I saw the Army hockey team like a couple weeks ago, and like during the
mhm.
national anthem, like their stand still straight, and that's sort of the biggest difference that I noticed between the service academies versus just other colleges is just like the stand and attention during the national anthem and like how they don't move at all. It's really cool to see that. I know it might sound weird, but it's just like you never really see that in other with other teams.
Yeah, it's insane. I have a high school friend who's running track and field at Navy, but it's just like I just know she has a lot more on her plate than, a normal student athlete does, and there's already so much we have on our plates as student athletes alone. So I just have major respect for anyone who does that, for sure.
How do you balance academics and lacrosse at such a high level?
Honestly, I think my two biggest things have been time management and organization. I think um for me at least, I always have to make sure I have everything written down in my planner, or there will be something that I forget until I have to do it the night before. So, usually writing it down in my planner and making sure everything's set ahead of time is super important to me. I think making sure I get things done when they're assigned to me, like not waiting and procrastinating. That's something that my mom definitely told me to do when I was in high school and I didn't listen to, unfortunately, until I got to college and realized that it really does help. That and I think learning how I learn has been really helpful, if that makes sense. Like I do better at like I can't have distractions. I'm not a morning person at all. You might be, I'm not sure, but I can't wake up in the morning at all to do work.
I can't, but I have to, unfortunately.
Really. See,
Yeah,
I've learned like even if I set an alarm, like I just won't wake up. It's really bad. So like wake up for practice, wake up for class, I'll be there. But wake up for homework, I'm
yeah.
not
No, I
gonna
get
wake.
what you mean. So,
Yeah, so I usually have to figure out like between classes, in the evening is usually my better time to study. Um, I use an online platform to help me like get through long textbook readings, which is super helpful because it will read it so I can listen to it while I'm driving or walking. That kind of stuff has been super helpful for me, I think.
now let's get back to the lacrosse side of things, just what you guys did accomplish this past season. So, your team won another Patriot League Championship. What did this one mean to you, though, as a freshman, and what emotions were you going through after Georgia scored that OT winner?
Yeah, I think I mean something that I really value about our team and our culture is it doesn't matter if you're on the team or not on the team, on the field or on the sideline or if you're injured. Like if you are a part of the team, you're a part of the team. So going into it as a freshman, like our role that we really value as a team is that sideline support. We kind of always we have before the game start, we have the team huddle and then we have our starters huddle and then we have a sideline huddle. And really what we talk about is how much we support our teammates, how much we're going to be so loud for them, like they can't even hear themselves. That type of thing. Because no matter how the game is going, like our support is not going to falter no matter what. And that's something that we really value within ourselves and our team. And we know that our starters can always count on us to do that. And, when we have those games where we are subbing a lot, we know that our starters are going to do that for us. Um, so there was a ton of screaming and cheering during that game for all of us on the sideline. It was cold, it was rainy, and there was so much adrenaline because it was such a close game. But honestly, Georgia is someone who, without a doubt, can finish in high pressure situations. So we were all like holding on to each other, like so, like just so much anxiety and adrenaline. But I think the one feeling is when she scored, we realized it went in, and we're just rushing the field. It was the most exciting and like overwhelmingly like just like overwhelming joy type of thing. And it was just so excited. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just can't imagine. You probably like I don't know how to describe it, but like when that happens, you probably like just like oh my gosh, like you don't know what to do. It just sort of like just your mind just turns off for that quick second just because there's so much adrenaline going on. And I don't know if there was like a pig pile or not, but that must have felt nice for a little bit. But then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting claustrophobic. I need to get out of this. But maybe you're happy, so happy you don't even realize that.
Didn't even realize it was just Georgia had the ball, Georgia went down. Like I think I think if I remember right, I think the goalie had saved it or something had happened and then and then there was a second shot and then the ball went. It was just like a craziness or the goalie had like slightly tipped it and it went in. It was just like we were all kind of like staring so intently we couldn't quite tell if it had gone in or not. And then we were like, oh my God, it went in. It went in. And we were like just rushing the field. So it was just the most fun feeling ever.
Now, in the tournament, you guys played a really good Duke team, and I know there was a lot of discussion whether they should be in the tournament or not. I felt like they should have been in the tournament, but that's obviously a discussion for another podcast. But just talk about getting your first tournament win and what it meant, and just what makes Duke a really good team from your perspective.
Yeah, I think I mean overall that game, regardless of how the seedings went with the NCAA tournament, that was a good game for us. I think that we executed really well on that and Duke is also a really fantastic program from their athletes to their coaches. Um, they really do have a great program and they played really well that game as well and their season. Also one of my teammates from high school plays for Duke and she's awesome, love her to death, Maddie Shearer. And I think that game we did our homework. Honestly, we were really relentless on the field. And even in times when we had some of our top players being face guarded by them, which rightfully so, we had our other players coming up with really great goals. I mean, one of our fifth years from last year, Reagan Keelmeyer had a phenomenal game at our Duke game. And I think that partly just goes to show, like, I think we all just have each other's backs in that kind of a game, which I really love. But yeah, I mean, props to Duke as well. I think that's kind of the part of a tournament where the sport really is the sport. Like one person has to win, one person has to lose. Um, and they did a great job and they had a great season last year.
Now, your season came to a close with a loss against UPenn. What was your first tournament experience like, and how have you reflected on that loss now? And I guess how are you going to try to use it for the upcoming season?
Yeah, that loss against UPenn was definitely hard. I think we all felt it, but especially we all felt it for our seniors. Obviously, we had known after we had lost that would have been their last game, and that was so hard because we didn't want any of them to leave. But looking back now, I like the part about again, the part about winning and losing is like as much as it was so disappointing and it sucked to lose, like in that game, they played better than we did in that game and they executed on a higher level and there were things that we can look back now and we know that we should have, done this better. We should have, adjusted to this. And, we get to learn from that now and we get to take that into this season and we get to, know how we want to handle that game if it were to come up against UPenn again or against a different program in the same situation. So I think after you kind of mourn the loss of losing that game, you can only manifest it and how to improve off of that.
Now, what would you say has been like the biggest improvement you've made to your game since the beginning of your freshman year to now?
I think like as much as it's not super visible within like be measurable maybe is a better way to put it. Probably mental like strength. I think at least as a goalkeeper, like that's always something that you kind of want to make sure you're working on in addition to your skill set on the field or your strength in the weight room. But like I think being able to be like competitive, going after it, keeping out of your head no matter what happens on the field is like one of the biggest strengths that any athlete can have. Um, and unfortunately, like as a goalkeeper, like if you make a mistake, you're the only one whose mistake goes in the scoreboard. So it is more of a mental thing than it is probably for other positions. But I think I put time into it this summer, I put time into it this fall, and I'm going to continue to put time into it. But I think it only helps your games and your play as well as helping like every rep that you take in practice be intentional. Like
Mhm.
reps are intentional, it's going to help you get better, even more so than if you were just going through the motions.
How do you work on the mental side of your game? Because I feel like confidence is such a huge part of, lacrosse and just sports in general. And obviously, players that have more confidence tend to play a little bit better just because they have that extra, sense of energy and urgency to, feel like they can do what they want to do. But as a goalkeeper, I feel like mentally it's such an important mental position. So how do you sort of maintain like a good mental mindset, confidence, because you are a good goalkeeper? And I feel like it's important to remember that even when things might not be going your way.
Yeah, I feel like I mean one of the things that I know helps me is I a lot of times either if it's before practice, before a game, I will write out some things in like a journal. And that started after Liz Hogan actually had done some Zoom meeting over COVID where she gave like what she used to do, and I basically took it off of that. But it's like a worksheet type of scenario, and I think I've mostly memorized the worksheet by now, but it's more of like a three focuses that you can focus on in the practice or game, whether like through communication, teammate support, saves, clears, and you just pick one thing. You pick like a one like day goal, you pick a 1 week goal, and you keep it really just short and concise and realistic. And visualization is a huge thing as well. I think that can really help. And I know sometimes it seems silly, but I think it really does help. Visualizing being successful, visualizing messing up and it being okay and moving on to the next one. Um, and I've done a little bit of EMDR as well, which is kind of similar to that like visualization piece, which was super helpful. But overall, I think it's just like it's less so about confidence, I feel like, because co overall confidence is really just a feeling. And feelings pass through our brains and bodies really quickly. It's more so like we're gonna mess up. Like no one's perfect and we're not aiming for perfection, but we just I think one of the quotes that I really like is elite athletes don't never make mistakes, but they don't dwell on them. Right? So if you mess up, like it's okay, but don't if you get in your head about it, like you're gonna get stuck and you're gonna miss the next goal. Whereas if you make a mistake and you're like, all right, I should have done this, next one. You're already moved on, you're already present, and you can just focus on the next shot. And that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I find it really interesting when you say like how confidence is the feeling and feelings pass by. And I feel like that's something that I never really realized is that like how to you things are going to happen both good and bad, especially in athletics, because it's such a roller coaster. And it's like how you react to those things and like how your mindset is in those things for you to be successful. I just feel like it's interesting because I feel like pe different athletes have different perspectives on it, like how to handle it, and it's sort of like trying to figure out like what works best for you. Because there might be something that worked for me where it probably wouldn't work for you or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of that is, trying it out and figuring out what works best for you. I know, like, a lot of times goalkeepers, and I'm sure other positions as well, will use like reset techniques kind of to kind of work on just moving on from whatever shot just happened to be present for the next one. And people have any things. I know some people will like hit the ground to remind them to like be present, hit the pipe, maybe like say something to themselves, like anything. But you kind of like get to like learn about yourself more by trying things out in maybe a high school game or a club game, figure out what works, what helps, and then stick to that routine.
Yeah, I feel like what worked for me was like meditation and breathing, just because
Yeah.
they sort of calmed me down a little bit and it helped me focus and move on and sort of get the right perspective on what just happened. I don't know if that's something that you or your teammates work on as well.
I love that. Yeah, we did kind of like a 2 minute thing last season a little bit where we would take 2 minutes to all sit in our lockers and just like breathe before practice started and just visualize and like get ourselves kind of shifted into gear for practice time after classes and whatever chaos was happening. So we definitely did that and that was helpful. And honestly, last week I even had a really big exam right before practice, and I was still feeling like stressed out over the exam when I pulled into the Ridley parking lot, and I just pulled up like a 5 minute meditation on YouTube and just like breathed because I
Hmm.
just had to like calm down and like recenter. So
Exactly.
I love that stuff for sure.
Well, there was a goalie from Northeastern. His name is Devin Levi, ice hockey goalie. And like he would like during commercial breaks, he would just like sit in the middle of the ice and like close his eyes while like all the stuff's going on. I don't know if they do that in lacrosse at all, like any like intermission commercial breaks where like people like do stuff like on the Jumbotron or not. But it was just cool for me to see like all these people doing like crazy stuff on the Jumbotron, like the fans are getting into it and he's just sitting there like this. So that was like I was like if I if I were a little bit younger, I'll definitely would have copied that if I played like as a kid played like that back then, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I don't know how to articulate it right now, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That's actually such a cool thing. Honestly, like to be so quiet and hear everyone around you and all the sounds and noises, I don't know, that would just be the coolest thing ever.
I like it, and people are like, "Oh, it's so weird," but I'm like, that's why I like goalies because they can be themselves a little bit. Where I feel like
Yeah.
players sometimes have to sort of follow this sort of same routine like everyone else does, but goalies get to do be unique in their own way, like on the field. So that's why I always like the position. At least for me personally, at least in hockey and in lacrosse, I'm starting to feel that way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're weird, we're ourselves. We're definitely like people say we have to be a little crazy to be
Yeah,
a goalie.
exactly.
So you kind of have to just take that and run with it, I guess.
I always find that comment funny because every goalie I've met doesn't seem crazy to me. They always seem like really nice and down to earth. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a goalie out there in lacrosse that I haven't talked to yet that is crazy, which would be an interesting interview to say the least.
Definitely. Try to get them for an interview for sure.
If you know anybody, please let me know. I'll try to see if we can get something like that happening. But I mean, I'm curious, like, what are your team's goals and expectations for the upcoming season? Have you thought about that? I assume it's to win another Patriot League Championship and try to go further in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the like more written goals, we could say definitely a Patriot League Conference Championship, NCAA tournament bid. Definitely, I think every team's goal is to win a national championship. Of course, that goes without being said. Um, but I think also just to grow as like I just think our team this year and for every year, honestly, just to be the best version of ourselves individually, but also the best version of our like this year's team that we could possibly be. And I think that goes within doing the most you can individually and also just, fostering the most like productive and efficient team environment possible. Um, so, I think no matter how this season turns out, obviously we are going to fight for that, like, NCAA, Patriot League Conference Championship, everything. Obviously, we are going to be fighting for that, and that is our end goal. But in addition to that, I think just to grow as players and humans and just, you know, put everything out there.
I do want to ask you a couple of questions about England before we get to the non-lacrosse segment. So obviously you recently got to represent England in the U20 World Championships. I'm just curious, what was it like getting the opportunity to do that and be in Hong Kong and what that whole experience was like? Because obviously I've talked to some of your teammates about it and it seemed like a lot of fun, but very humid at the same time. But
Oh
I am
yeah.
I am also curious, like how did you get to play for England? Like was there like a family member that's from there that sort of led that to happen? Like obviously, like when someone meets you, they probably won't think that you're English. So I'm just curious, like
Right.
how that happened.
Yeah, so I mean, regarding my eligibility for England, my mom's side is English and she was born in England. So my mom is an English citizen, so or she has dual. So I'm eligible through that. And as of right now, I am one of the squad members that's, taking up in these past two tournaments I've been with England. I've taken up one of those passport holder spots, but um, it's just a longer process to get your, you know, dual passport. But I actually am in, the midst of paperwork to get that, which is much more efficient and easier. But I really love the opportunity to play for England. I've played at obviously Worlds this past summer, but I also played at the U20 European Championship in Prague the summer before after I graduated high school. And it's like I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just such an incredible honor to play for your country and to play at that level. Um, within like you get to put on the England jersey, you get to have that experience. You get to, you have the opportunity to play and you get these incredible friendships made with all of your teammates. And I mean, for me as well, like traveling is expensive. So without the, traveling for England lacrosse to and from England, it's hard to see my family there. So I've really loved being able to see um, all of my family that lives there and I get to stay with them when I'm there for trainings and stuff. So it's a great way I've gotten to like see my cousin grow up in a way that I hadn't gotten to before. Um, and also, honestly, like being at Worlds, being able to play against all of these different teams from around the world, speaking all of these different languages, like it is the coolest thing I've ever experienced, ever. I know that sounds silly, but like it just makes you feel so small within such a big world, if that kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah, because I feel like you don't realize like how small the lacrosse community is. Like you think like so many people play, and that is true, but like it's kind of cool to think about like you have some sort of connection with someone from like 100,000 miles away from where you're from, which is kind of cool to think about. And it shows you the some of the unique connections that we have as human beings, I feel like.
Yeah, I love all my England teammates. And I mean, in addition to that, within Europeans and Worlds, like something that's really cool that you do in World Lacrosse after these big tournaments is you do like kit swaps. So like I came home with, stuff from the Kiwis, I had stuff from some of the Japanese players, I had like some Australian kit. Like you just like you get to like trade kit. Other girls got some of my England kit and you get, I follow these girls on Instagram that live all around the world from all these different teams. And it's just like truly the coolest thing to see all these different like countries and their cultures and their, representing their country and you're representing yours. And it's just like you're all in one place and you all love the sport and you're all playing for your country. And it's just like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. And you get to improve your jersey collection as well for free, which is
Yes.
must be nice.
I got a really cool Japan
Oh,
player's
that
shirt.
they were the most impressive team in that tournament,
I
in my
know.
opinion, especially the
And
way they played defense and like how different it was compared to other countries. I think I wouldn't be surprised if any college lacrosse coaches were watching that and are going to take some of those ideas and implement it into the
for
NCAA.
sure. They already have a couple girls. I think a couple of the Louisville players
Yeah,
are
yeah.
yeah, are on the team. And I mean, obviously they beat us in one of the games that, that being said was not the most fun part, but then after that, like I think they're awesome. They're so disciplined and they're such amazing athletes. Like I was so excited that I got a Japanese shirt
Mhm.
that said Japan Lacrosse. Like I'm gonna wear that with my chest out. Like that was like they're amazing and they played so well in the Australian game for the bronze as well. I was rooting for them the entire after they beat us. That was who I wanted to win it all, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I haven't interviewed anyone from Japan yet, but I have interviewed someone from Australia. But I try to stay neutral. I guess I was rooting for Team USA because, I feel like I have to. But
yeah.
and I'm a big fan of some of the players on that team, specifically
Yeah.
Madison Taylor and Shea Baker. I think they're two really underrated players that I think we're going to compete for the Patty Caz next year, but that's obviously a conversation for another podcast as well. But
Yeah.
your team had a lot of good players. It was really cool for me to interview some of them and hopefully give them some exposure to like American audiences, specifically Annie Mather, who I'm going to have on the podcast later. Obviously, you'll be out by the time your interview's up, and then Freya Moody as well. Those were two really good players,
Oh,
and
I
I'm ex
love both of them
I hope
so
that
much.
more people get to watch them play in the future because they were fun to watch and also fun to talk to as well.
Yeah, they're incredible players and they're amazing people. Yeah, I was just texting Freya the other day actually. But yeah, I love those humans so much. They're amazing and I'm so excited to hear their podcasts with you.
Well, is already out, but Annie's going to be
Oh, wait,
out,
did I miss that
I
then?
think,
Okay,
this
good.
week. Obviously, it's going to be out by the time when people are listening to this, so feel free
Yeah,
to
of
go check it
course.
out. But yeah, two great interviews as well as honors, and hopefully I'm
And
not
Jem,
forgetting.
right?
Yes, and
I think Jem.
hopefully I'm not forgetting any more outside of those ones. But it was really cool getting the chance to talk to them and learn more about England specifically. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, genuinely I love all of them so much and those are all phenomenal players and teammates and humans, honestly. Um, but yeah, those are my favorites for sure.
So let's now transition to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you more off the field. So first one is, what is the best concert you've ever been to?
Okay. I actually thought about this one beforehand. I haven't been to a concert in a while, but I went to a Chainsmokers concert in like middle school, and that one was good. I know, forever ago, but
Hey, Closer was probably bumping back then, so that would
I
have been cool
know
to see that.
Chainsmokers back then was like a big deal.
Yeah,
Um, and then actually really funny to me now at least is I went to like a meet and greet concert when I was like 11 and Flo Rida was there. So I have a picture of like an 11-year-old me with Flo Rida. Which I just think aged so well. And then I'm actually going to a concert in like 2 weeks, which is with Gigi Perez and Girl in Red. So we'll have to see. That might up the ranks if it beats
maybe.
Chainsmokers from like 2016.
Well,
So
I like the Chainsmokers personally. I have a lot of their songs on my playlist, and
me too.
I think I would definitely go see them live even now. I know like maybe they're not as popular as they were when that song came out, but I still think they're pretty good. And I
I
think
think
the
so.
guy's a good mute singer too. I don't know what his name is, but the one of the guys. So
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I would say my best concert I've ever gone to is Blink-182. They were a lot of fun to watch live.
that sounds great. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
I love when they're good live too. Like, because you want it to be a good performance as well.
Yeah. And it was just cool because like I grew up listening to that, so it was sort of like fun and I don't know, they told jokes in between too, so it made a fun concert experience. And I think Travis Barker is one of the best drummers ever. So to see
Mhm.
that live was unreal for me. So that would
That's
definitely
all.
be mine. Now, what has been the most interesting thing you've read or seen recently?
Better scene. Um, I just started a book this week that I bought a while ago and never got to start, but it's called Rouge, I think. But I just started it, so I don't really know exactly how good it's gonna be, but I think it's something about like this girl's mom passes away and then she ends up like finding out all these like secrets that her mom never told her, and it's kind of like a more mystery type thing. So I'm interested so far. I think it's kind of a play on like the society and like beauty industry and stuff to kind of
Hmm.
make fun of it a little bit. So I thought it'd be good.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen m many things interesting this week, to be honest with you. I can't think of anything, so I'm not going to try to think of something right now.
Did you
But
um did you watch the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight?
I did not because I knew what was going to
Yeah.
happen, so I didn't feel like it was w
Uh,
worth my time. But
I should have gone to bed, but
I heard Netflix was like buffering throughout a lot of it too.
ours didn't, honestly.
Oh,
But
that's good.
if a handful of us that like live in this house on the team, we stayed up and watched, and I think most of us probably wish we had gone to bed because it was definitely all for the money, but we were curious, so.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about because I remember when Jake Paul was like a YouTuber and on Disney Channel, and now
Oh.
he's like a boxer. So it's crazy to see how like much his life has changed in like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy development for sure.
Now, I saw in your Loyola bio that your parents played multiple sports in college, so I thought I would ask if you didn't play lacrosse, what sport would you play?
If I didn't play lacrosse, I kind of wish that I would have played soccer or basketball probably.
Okay.
Um, my one of my parents did cross country. I do not think I could have followed suit on that. There's so much that's just hard to do
I do
cross
like
country.
running. It's good for the mind. So,
I love running, but not that long of running, for sure. But honestly, when I was in high school, I did a lot of music stuff as well. So when I cut it down to only lacrosse, any time that would have been given to a second sport was given to the music stuff that I did in high school.
okay.
So maybe I would have been like a music major or something. Who
That would have
knows?
been cool. That would have been cool. Maybe you would have been with the Chainsmokers then in a few years.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Made a debut.
what instrument did you play?
I sang actually. I did a bunch of like performances and like choral everything.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the one talent I
Yeah.
wish I had. I wish I could sing. It would be awesome, but I can't. So I just like playing the drums. That's sort of I did that growing up. So
The drums. I always wanted to play the drums when I was a kid. I
I just
never
thought
did.
they looked the coolest. So that's why I saved up enough money and got my first set, and that's basically how I got started. So
Do you still play?
I don't play anymore, no, just because I don't have enough time. But
Fair,
once I'm
yeah.
hoping like once like I graduate and all that stuff, I can have more time and I'll start getting back into it a little bit. I'm trying to learn how to play the guitar. That's sort of what I want to do next, to sort of learn how to
Okay.
play both instruments. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's guitar is kind of tricky. I know for a fun elective here, I'm taking piano right now. Just
Oh,
for fun.
that's awesome. I want to learn
Uh,
that too. I think like I'm a big fan of classical music, so it would be fun just for me to
Yeah,
like play like classical music just to calm myself down. I know when I was talking about those breathing exercises, sometimes I listen to like Mozart, Beethoven, people like that, and it like
love
gets me in a
that.
mood. So I would love to learn how to
Yeah.
play that stuff as well.
Yeah, I just talked to my professor about maybe trying to learn the like Clair de Lune because I like
Yeah,
that a lot, but it's really pretty. But we'll see how my skills are going so far. I think I'm still working out of a kid's book, so
yeah. Well, it's
hopefully.
crazy to think about some of these, like Mozart specifically. Like he wrote all those songs when he was like a toddler, and it's
That's
just crazy to
cool.
think about like.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I just like I
Oh,
feel like you'll never see something like that ever again.
that's crazy. Well, I'm glad it's all written so we can have it now.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I feel bad because some of these artists like back then never got to see their music like see it be successful. Like the person that wrote Canon in D, which is like a
Mhm.
great musical classical masterpiece. Like the guy never saw it like become what it is now. And I'm like, man,
Oh,
that's gotta suck to think about.
you have no idea how popular it is now.
Yeah, exactly,
Oh,
exactly. Now, who has the best style off the field on the Loyola women's lacrosse team? Kennedy, I feel like you have the best style on the team, so that'll be my answer.
I think honestly, our team has a lot of different styles. But for this year on the team, I think probably between Gabby Stapleton or Mackenzie Butler. Both of them have different styles, but they always look really put together. And I always really like their outfits, whether it's the game day walk-in or just like a really cute outfit for class. But yeah, they always have a good sense of style.
Yeah. Well, last year your team had a lot of good style, so it was hard to pick. But I'm gonna say you because you're doing the interview right now. So,
I'll take
um,
it. I'll take it.
now last one I have for you is what is one show you can binge watch all day?
Um, Definitely. I'm someone that can definitely rewatch an older show as like comfort. If it's like snowing outside in the winter and the fireplace is on, I'll definitely hang on the couch with my parents and my dog or something. But Probably Schitt's Creek or Modern Family, I'd have to
Ooh,
say.
Modern Family's a good one. That's a good one. It's like when you can sort of turn your brain off and like
Yeah, and they're
laugh
funny. I
at.
think it's still
Yeah,
funny.
exactly. I agree with you on that. I would say for me, trying to do a different answer, I would say like Parks and Recreation. That was always a funny show.
Ooh,
So
that's a good one. It
I'll do
used to be The
that.
Office, and they took it off Netflix. So,
They took Parks and Rec off Netflix too, and I was in the middle of it. I was so upset.
oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, so now I'm doing Breaking Bad, but it takes me forever to finish shows, so who knows when I'll get that done, but we'll see eventually. Now, getting back to some lacrosse questions now, I guess the one last one I want to ask you was what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Yeah, I think I mean just in the past week we had I don't know if you saw but the WLL
I did
uh
see that, yes.
yeah, come out,
Hopefully we
which I
can do
think
some stuff with that in the
yeah,
future.
absolutely. I think that within itself is a great step towards kind of integrating women's lacrosse with men's lacrosse. I know obviously there are rule differences, but I think they have been pretty separate. We didn't have a women's box championship until this year as well. Um, and I think my coach actually, Dana Dobie, did a ton for that within advocating for it, within making sure that that was up and running. And between the WLL, the Women's Box Championship, I think just making sure that women's lacrosse has all the same opportunities that are offered to men. There's no reason why, men's games should be on ESPN more than ours. There's no reason why, our, tournament games need to be all at the same time.
That's
They
a
should,
big thing for me too.
yeah, they need to be buffered so everyone can watch it. I just think it's less so about having more opportunities in men, but just having equal opportunities to the men's sports. And I think I'm really excited for them to have like a PLL and a WLL to have it be both under the same kind of header. And I just think all of that is super, super exciting.
Oh,
Just to have girls be
exactly.
able to watch women's lacrosse.
All year round too. Like during the summer when there's any college lacrosse, it just makes like just the sport in general grow even more. So, and people get to get introduced to new players and you can travel around different parts of the country and help grow in like certain areas where it might not be as popular. So I totally agree with you on that. There's a lot of positivity that you can use to make it grow even more from that perspective. And I'd say for me, I know they're doing this year, but hopefully they can continue to do this is having the Final Four in the same location for both men's and women's. I just felt
Yeah.
like this past year it was harder for people to go to the women's tournament because of where it was located. I feel like if you have in a location near a city where most lacrosse fans can get to, it can help more people want to watch a women's game that might not be there for that specific reason, but they might want to go and check it out. And obviously that helps the sport grow. So just sort of like mingling the two weekends together, making it one thing and sort of helping promote the women's game and treating it the same as the men's, I think will help the sport grow more. That's just from my perspective, but we'll
I
see.
100%.
There's more people who are smarter than me that might disagree with me on that one.
No, I don't think anyone could disagree on that. There's absolutely no reason they have to be at separate venues. I think it can only help because if it's, someone who stays in town an extra few days just to go to the women's games, like even better, no
Hmm.
matter if your kid's playing it or not. Um, and I agree, being kind of in the central place, like even if you have a family of like you have sons and daughters, right? Like you can go to both games. It can be a big family trip and both kids get to see their sport get played on that level.
Hmm.
So I absolutely agree
Absolutely.
with you.
Well, Kennedy, it was awesome getting the chance to talk with you today. Do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody, any family members, friends, teammates, former teammates, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I think I mean overall shout out to all of my awesome teammates and all the coaches that have helped me throughout, so far within my rec league to my high school to my club team with Christina D'Angelo and obviously my college coaches as well. And anyone on my Loyola team would be amazing on the podcast next, but um, I wrote down two names, but I had Lauren Grady, who plays for Marquette, actually, and she's one of my old high school rivals, but we train together at home, and she's an awesome player. She's gritty. She's just outstanding player. Love to get shots from her when I'm home. And then Avery Runke, who is a sophomore with me at Loyola. She's awesome and is a great player as well.
Well, Kennedy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on the podcast. It really means a lot to myself and to the podcast as a whole. And it was super fun getting the chance to talk with you today. This was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done, so I just want to let you know that. And I wish you all the best for the upcoming season. And I know your team's gonna do great things. And obviously, I'll be rooting for you to have the best season possible. So thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so, so much. I was so excited to be able to do this with you, and I had a great conversation. So just thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your podcast.